record our session. There we go. We're good to go. That way, if you find that this topic is super compelling, you have the opportunity to go back onto our Women Who Code YouTube page and share this with your friends and family. So my name is Blanca Roman, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Women Who Code and our mission. We are here really to empower diverse women to excel in their technology careers. Super excited to have a woman panelist today to talk about her experience. But ultimately, Women Who Code's vision is a tech industry where diverse women are historically excluded, and historically excluded people have the opportunity to thrive in their careers. Our values is obviously to focus on our mission, remember, why we're here and who we're here for. This meeting is really designed for inclusion, making space for everyone and embodying a culture of belonging. And we want to advocate for change. So we live leadership, we champion one another, and as a community, we're super powerful when we unite. And we want to talk about our journey forward, right? Recharge, celebrate one another, and break barriers. And in case you didn't know, Women Who Code is a global organization. There are 343,000 members across the world in 147 countries. We have our Chicago chapter, but there's a lot of other chapters if you want to follow them as well. And then lastly, our code of conduct, right? So we're an inclusive community and we're here to provide an empowering experience for anyone who participates. And so regardless of gender identity, and expression, or sexual orientation, ability, appearance, all of the above, we're really here to respect one another and to have an inclusive culture. And so if you wanted to follow us more closely and understand our full code of conduct, you're more than welcome to check it out on womenwhocode.com. And a quick introduction to our local chapter. So Women Who Code Directors is made up of this wonderful crew here. So we have Andrea Chang, who is one of our directors, Sungmin Naylor, who is hosting the session with us today, myself, Blanca Roman, and then last but not least, Ann Young, who are your powerful Women Who Code director team. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sungmi, who's going to introduce our speaker for today.
Thanks, Blanca. It is a true pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Piali Kamra. Not only she is a highly experienced enterprise architect for over 20 years, she also is a dear friend of mine for close to 10 years. So Piali sees designing large-scale enterprise system is more of art than science. So I am looking forward to hearing all about the story and approach to her design and leveraging Gen AI and machine learning. So hi, Piali, are you ready?
Oh yeah, sure, I am ready. Thanks, Sangmi, for the warm welcome, and thanks Anne, Blanca, Andrea, and Sangmi for inviting me for today's session. I have a lot to cover, so let's get started real quick. I am trying to share my screen. Okay, awesome. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, and you can see it in the presentation mode?
Yes.
Awesome. So let's get started. Once again, my name is Piali Kamra. I'm an enterprise architect in Amazon Web Services. And today I want to talk about AI/ML capabilities on cloud and how you could use it for innovation. I do want to spend most of the time today talking about Gen AI. But before we get started with generative AI, let's try to understand what is traditional ML. Just because we want to level set, there are people with different backgrounds over here. So let's understand about traditional machine learning, and then we'll go into generative AI. So my favorite way of understanding traditional ML at a 10,000 feet, if I had to explain this to somebody, it would be like all machine learning models at the end of the day are mathematical equations. And what we do is we actually send in some kind of data. It could be text data, it could be image data, it could be anything pertaining to your problem domain. You send it to a mathematical equation, and when you send it to the mathematical equation, you also tell it, this is what I expect as an answer. And what happens out of that is you get a machine learning model. Commonly in the industry, you will hear it as a .pickle file. That's a machine learning model. And then real time, when you try to use these machine learning models within your business applications, what you do is you send in real-time data that the model has never seen before, but is very relevant to the problem that it's trying to solve. And then it spits out predicted answers or answers for your problem. And that is understanding what a machine learning model is at a 10,000 feet. That is traditional machine learning models. One thing we need to remember when we talk about traditional machine learning models is that in order to build these traditional ML models, we would need a lot of data, because the model has to learn patterns. And the only way a mathematical equation can learn patterns is if you train it with lots of data. On top of it, these models could only solve one specific problem. For example, maybe sentiment analysis, maybe categorizing a problem, maybe text summarization. Each model could only solve one specific problem. And that really is the distinguishing factor between traditional machine learning and generative AI. Now, before we go into generative AI, I also want to touch upon some industries in which machine learning has been used to drive innovation. For the past couple of years, I have been predominantly working in AWS, dealing with financial service customers, predominantly insurance and banking. So I am going to be talking mostly about use cases around AI and ML in banking and insurance sector. Now, this must be familiar to a lot of y'all. In the banking industry, where does machine learning come into play? When you onboard a customer, or KYC is know your customer, when you want to validate, is this the correct customer? Predominantly what we do is we submit either, one way of onboarding is your driver's license or some digital document. And in order to identify a person from their digital documents, is a process called as optical character recognition. This is a very deep area of machine learning called as computer vision. That's where, so this is one of the areas where we can see that computer vision is used. The next is document processing. And document processing is used in mortgage industry, in loan processing. It's also used, for example, in insurance claims. So when you submit a claim, you have to submit documents. Sometimes if a person is in an accident, they also submit their doctor's reports. And what we have seen is this part of claims processing or loan document processing in the mortgage industry, it is very manual today. And a lot of man hours go into it. So one of the primary focus that I have seen in the recent years is how to automate these two areas in the financial services industry. That is the document processing of the various documents that you submit. Now, one thing to note is you can always code and create machine learning models to do digital document processing or image processing. But where the innovation part is that most of the cloud providers nowadays, they actually have created wrappers or APIs so that you yourself don't have to write the code to automate your document processing. And that's where the innovation lies. Your time to market any new functionality that you're building to solve your business problem greatly reduces if you can take advantage of the services that various cloud providers have created. Now, in my session over here today, you will be seeing some AWS services, Again, different cloud providers have different services that they have created to automate these things. But this is pretty much present in all cloud platforms. The other thing is credit decisioning. Now, in order to, when you apply for a credit card, whether you're approved or not, and then what kind of a credit card are you approved for? This problem is solved by a machine learning technique called as clustering or user segmentation. What happens is almost all in banks, major banks, they have access to a lot of user-specific data, the demography of the user, the different educational qualifications of users, their the income of the users, where do they stay, what kind of property do they have, and they train their machine learning models on these specific segments of user data. And because of that, they have specific machine learning models which help them to decide the credit rating of a user, whether to give mortgage to the user. That's another area where we have seen innovation and automation in the recent many years. Fraud detection, again, in the retail industry, in the payment industry, fraud detection mechanisms are becoming very prevalent. And at the same time, again, a few years before, companies, financial service companies, they used to create a lot of code to detect fraud, to decide about the credit. But nowadays, there are actually services which are available with cloud providers, which can actually help you create your fraud detection pipelines very easily. Next is customer interaction. I'm going to go through a few demos where you will understand customer interaction, at least the way it's progressing, a little bit more in detail. So I'll leave it for the later part of the session. And then there is personalized recommendations. Think about Netflix. When you go on Netflix, based on your history, what you have seen, Netflix already recommends movies for you to watch. Similarly, when you go on Amazon.com, you get personalized recommendation, maybe based on your previous history or what people around you with similar tastes are buying, right? So again, there are recommendation algorithms, machine learning models, but at the same time, there are also services that cloud providers have created. For example, on Amazon, there is Amazon Pinpoint, which can be used. So similarly, different cloud providers have different algorithms and services that they have already packaged, which you can take advantage of to reduce your cycle time to go to production. Insurance again. Now, where I see in insurance, where I have seen some common business problems where AI ML is being used is personalized rates. Again, this is a classic user segmentation or customer segmentation problem that is solved. The other is cross-selling and recommendations. For example, the insurance companies have a lot of data that they have mined based on customer preferences. So what happens is when you are calling an insurance provider or maybe even a bank for a particular product, they try to cross-sell you at that time some other products which they feel you might be interested in. And this is where, again, machine learning plays a very important role. Claims processing, we talked a little bit about it with respect to document processing. Customer experience, again, I'm going to go through a demo so you'll understand over there. The next is, and the second slide that you see, or the second to the right-hand side, enhancing the business operations. So back office business operations, one area which you will see where machine learning is being used a lot is actually when you call up, like in call center, we call it as call center analytics in the modern realm. And that is basically when you call anybody, like you call customer service for almost anything, there is an automated voice bot or a chat bot. And day by day, we are seeing that it's becoming much more realistic. And with generative AI now, the chatbots, when they are powered by generative AI, they become much more human-like. And I'll show you an example of that. That's another area, customer contact center or contact center analytics or customer experience. What these three mean the same thing. This is where I'm seeing a lot of companies putting their efforts in revamping their back office operations and their customer experience, because they have realized that's the best way to retain customers. Now, travel and hospitality, again, I won't go much into it, but hotels, tour groups, even airline companies, and a very popular pizza chain, they are all using AI and ML, basically to enhance their business, the customer experience, and to even improve their margins. Now, I talked a lot about traditional models, but I want to quickly jump into generative AI. Now, how is generative AI different? Why is there so much of a craze around generative AI? At a 10,000 feet, if you want to understand, one thing that we want to understand is that I told you in the very beginning, with traditional ML models, one ML model is good at performing one task. So what happens now is across the industry in companies, you have so many machine learning models to solve all different kinds of problems, and people are maintaining them and managing them, and they have pipelines to deploy them to production. That's a lot of work. Now, fast forward to generative AI, you will often keep hearing these terms called as large language models or foundational models. These are models that have been trained on billions of parameters, internet scale data. And because of these large language models or Gen AI models can actually solve a multitude of problems. So one model can solve multitude of problems. And the reason, because these large language models, they have been trained on internet scale data. So they have natural language processing ability. So they can summarize text, they can talk to you like a human. They almost seem to have cognitive abilities because of the amount of data that they have been trained on. And compute today on cloud is very cheap, and that's why it is very easy to train these large language models on internet scale data. This was not possible previously because it is difficult to procure hardware, such vast amount of hardware and chips in an on-premise world. It is much easier to scale up and down on the cloud. And that's the reason that you see that there has been a shift in the amount and the number of foundational models that are being created. For example, Microsoft is using ChatGPT in all their products. Amazon has come up with Amazon Bedrock, which is a platform for where you can get access to first-party large language model of Amazon, as well as other third-party providers like Anthropic and Stability AI. So that's the reason that Gen AI has become so popular. And one more thing to note is, and I'll show you in the demo today, these large language models, they also show emergent behaviors. What that means is, when you train, you can obviously, they have already been trained, they have some intelligence on internet scale data, but you can also train them on your enterprise data, on data that's available within your enterprise ecosystem. And they can answer questions about the data which is present within your enterprise in a natural language way, but at the same time, they have emergent behaviors, which means that they can actually give you answers to questions which they have never seen before. It's a little bit scary, and I'll show you that later. Now, we want to talk about generative AI in the scope of enterprises, right? Like, how does an insurance company use it, or how does a banking company use it? How does a travel and hospitality company use generative AI. The main thing to remember is while these foundational models have already been trained on billions of parameters of internet scale data, if you really want to use them and make them useful within your enterprise, they need access to your data. They need access to your documents, your unstructured data, your images. Think about it as your databases. So your data is the differentiator. Generative AI within enterprises cannot do anything unless it is fed your data, your domain specific data. So this is the main thing. If there's something that you want to take away from today's session, this is something that you definitely want to take away. You have Gen AI capabilities on the left hand side, that is foundational models by Microsoft, by Amazon, by Google, by Anthropic. You have all these amazing large language models, but these large language models, they can obviously do all these things out of the box, right? You can use it to create a chatbot, like really easy, put a skin on top of it. You can give it some text and it will summarize the text for you. But to really make sense and use it in your enterprise in a proper way, you need to give it access to your data. And the beauty of this is, because it's a natural NLP, it has got NLP capabilities. That means it can understand questions that you ask it in a natural way. It can understand the context and the meaning of what you ask it. That's why you can pretty much train it on any kind of data. It's not that your data has to be sitting in a SQL database. It can be a file, it can be a PDF document, it could be a Word document, it could be just some bullet points that you've written in a file and kept it on some file share. It could be JSON structures, it can be anything. And the generative AI models, when you feed the context, when you give it the data of your enterprise, it can pretty much understand the meaning of your question and answer back based on the data that you have provided it with. And because of that, now it opens up a whole new array of innovation and a whole new way of solving problems. For example, when customers call into customer service, if you have a generative AI chatbot which has access to your FAQs, your documents, your next best answers or whatever, it can actually talk to the customer in an NLP fashion. The turnaround time to solve problems will be very less. Not just that, with the help of certain Gen AI technologies and these foundational models, you'll often hear, if you're working with generative AI, you will hear about an open source technology called as LangChain. It basically helps you automate entire flows. For example, when you call in for claims processing, the generative AI chatbot can access the APIs in your enterprise, and it will decide, it can be trained to call the APIs one after another and complete the entire transaction. And you will see an example of that as well. New thing, prompt engineering. You will hear this very often. It takes a lot of time to actually dive deep into prompt engineering, but again, a very high level overview. Prompt engineering is the way that you feed context into your generative AI foundational models. As I said, Gen AI is amazing out of the box, but if you really want to use it to solve your enterprise problems, your business domain problems, you need to feed it context. And the way you feed it context is this new term called as prompt engineering. What is prompt engineering? Here is a very simple example of what prompt engineering looks like. You basically tell the generative AI foundational model that, hey, this is the data structures that you have access to. So if you see the red box on the left-hand side, you will see that I have mentioned over here something. Okay, let me see. I was actually trying to highlight this. So you'll see over here, I have mentioned something called as docs. This means I'm basically telling the generative AI model in order to answer the questions, just make use of these documents that are sitting over here. Basically, in a way, I'm telling generative AI, I'm making it domain bound. I'm making sure that it only answers questions related to the problem statement at hand. It doesn't. That's one way of training, not training, but rather focusing your generative AI models. Unlike traditional machine learning models, you don't always have to train Gen AI models. You can just use them out of the box. Just provide a bounded context by giving them some information. And this is a way of providing bounded context. And then in the other section, the yellow box, I was telling you that you can automate entire workflows by enabling the generative AI model to think for itself. So basically, here you will see, you tell the generative AI model, these are all the tools or the APIs that you have access to. And then you tell it how to think. This is called a chain of thought. You will often hear this chain of thought. This means you're telling the generative AI model, this is the problem you're trying to solve. This is the tools that you have access to. This is the input. And then you're telling it, think about what are the next steps that you will be using to solve your problem. So this is kind of a new way, prompt engineering, which will, I think you will see a lot of interest in prompt engineering in the coming years. I don't want to go much into it, but for the sake of completeness, I did want to mention about some of the prompt engineering techniques. I did talk about chain of thought, and that's one of the prompt engineering technique that you saw on the last slide. There is also something called as RAG, which you will commonly hear, called as retrieval augmented generation, which means it goes against your enterprise data and gives answers based on that enterprise data. Okay, let's see. Why am I not able to? Okay. Again, I'm going to share these slides. I just wanted to call out Amazon's Bedrock agents because when you want to automate entire workflows, which will happen sooner or later in many enterprises, then agents become an important part of foundational models. And the way to think about an agent is it's like your brain. When you want to solve a problem, you start, the first thing that logically you start thinking is, in order to solve this problem, where should I look for help? Then you go to the resources where you can look for help. And sometimes you get incomplete answers. You go to another resource. And then finally you solve the problem. That's what an agent is. It knows how to solve a problem. The other way of thinking about agents, and I'm talking about Bedrock agents, but in the open source world, there is LangChain agents. So LangChain agents or Bedrock agents, along with your foundational models, will help you automate most of the workflows in your enterprise systems. Another way to think about agents is, let's say, let's just say, you had a conversation with your friend the other day about going to a party, and you meet her after 7 days, and she's like, "Hey, how was that party that day?" And you think a little bit, and you're like, "Oh, last week, okay, I went to this party. Oh yeah, it was great." So look at how you had the conversation. Your brain was able to recollect the conversation that you had with her. It was able to summarize, and it then gave a contextual. You answered back to your, or you had a conversation with your friend because you remembered the context. And that's the beauty of generative AI. You can combine the power of agents to give memory or conversational memory to large language models. Just wanted to call out, I think we went through this already, where am I seeing generative AI being used to improve customer experiences, boost employee productivity, and back office operations. Let's take a quick example at a chatbot, which is built. It's a short demo. I wish I could come out of this. Okay, let's see. Just give me a moment.
Let's say a customer has a question regarding their insurance. Once a question is entered into the chat, The AWS generative AI-based agent analyzes the question to understand customer intent. Next, the agent uses natural language understanding and foundation models to generate a contextual answer drawn from multiple trusted knowledge bases and content in real time. As the conversation continues, the virtual agent tracks the conversation history to seamlessly answer follow-up questions. To ensure customers are also supported on the voice channel, AWS can extend this same generative AI capability to help clients build an interactive voice response system. Through user identification and voice verification, VoiceBot can help customers find answers and complete transactions over the phone. Welcome to Monte Insurance. I see you calling 555-555-2100. Yes, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you, Carmen. I just bought my first home. Do you guys offer home insurance? Yes, we offer home insurance policies that provide customized coverage tailored to your specific needs. I'm interested in that. Can you describe it in more detail, please? Sure. Our home insurance policies consider factors like your home's square footage, construction type. That sounds great. Sign me up.
Were you all able to hear that?
Barely. The
I
chatbot,
couldn't hear his response.
yeah.
Were you
We
able
can
to?
hear the clients, but the not chatbot's voice. We read through.
You were not able to hear?
It was a static, so it was hard to listen.
Oh, it was static?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just see once again.
No, I think that's okay.
We were able to read the text though.
Yeah.
Oh, what about now?
Let's say it.
Is it static or are you able to hear?
Nothing.
Customer has a question
there you
regarding
go.
their insurance. Once the question is entered into the chat,
Were you able to see it or was it static?
No, this is fine, but I think the chatbot voice is a bit static.
Oh, okay. I guess when I upload this video, I'll upload the slides. Maybe people can play it, and then that would be, maybe it's something with Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry about that. I hope you all would be able to see this entire thing. So the other example that I just wanted to show real quick was this another generative AI example, like where I'm seeing many marketing companies use generative AI for creating their marketing campaigns. Let's see if you all are able to hear this.
we're on a new line of solar-powered bicycles. Just type a couple of keywords for your product, and AWS's generative AI capabilities will generate an image and description based on your input in a matter of seconds. Foundation models running on AWS can transform your text input into a variety of marketing materials, from press releases to internal communications memos to social media ad copy. You can even adapt your content for different audiences by generating new collateral across multiple styles and tones. Do you want to enhance or upscale blurry photos for a blog post? Our generative AI capability can enlarge the image and increase the photo quality to fit your publishing specification.
Were you all able to listen to this?
Yes.
Awesome. What I also want to do is the very last thing that I want to touch before I show you all an actual demo that I created is another place where I see generative AI being used is a coding companion, right? For example, GitHub has GitHub Copilot. Similarly, you have Amazon Code Whisperer. This is actually transforming the way people write code. And they are very powerful because it really increases the employee productivity, but at the same time, it also it's so much more accessible now, because even with less amount of programming experience, you can actually start building things. And that's where now programming is much more accessible to a much more diverse set of engineers. And this is definitely going to change the way we all code in the coming years. So this is something that's really going to impact the productivity of engineers. And to end the session, I know that we are almost at 30 minutes. So in the appendix, I have added some more slides of different industries where generative AI is being used. But in a nutshell, this is all the places where I'm seeing a lot of interest in generative AI. Even I often talk to companies who are trying to understand the art of the possible. Like, what kind of problems can I solve with generative AI? There's a lot of discovery that is happening. Traditionally, something has been done in a specific way, but going forward, how can we leverage generative AI to solve the problems, to automate many of the manual tasks that are being done, or to even rethink the way automation is done in many industries? Now, with that, I am going to show you a small demo of a generative AI chatbot. Are you all able to see the screen?
Mhm.
Okay. So what I did for this is I actually just created this website by creating a generative AI chatbot that you see. This is just a static website, but the chatbot that you see on the right-hand side corner, it's being powered by generative AI. And what I did is I actually took a BMW car manual and I fed it. And it was just like, it's a PDF document with lots of diagrams and just bullet points. It's an actual manual, which is like 1,000 pages long, doesn't have proper sentences, just has bullet points, indicators, and diagrams of the left door, the right door, where is the VIN number, things like that. And I fed that as context to my generative AI model. I took a foundational model right off the box. I didn't train it. All I said is, hey, any question that I ask you, you need to go against this document. And that document, we call it as unstructured document because it's not data sitting in a SQL database. It's just a PDF document with a bunch of diagrams and annotations. And the generative AI model needs to make sense out of it. So here I'm writing a question: where is the VIN? I hope it works. And see what it says. It tells me in a natural language the vehicle identification number. I wrote VIN, but the model realized that VIN means vehicle identification number. Can be found on the nameplate on the right-hand side of the vehicle. Look at it, it's not robotic, it's natural language. Now I say, okay, what is iDrive? Let's see what it says. iDrive is a proprietary operating system developed by BMW for using. Yeah, it makes sense. I'll give it a generic question now. What is a carburetor? I don't know if the spelling is correct, but I hope the model will understand what I mean to ask. Carburetor is a device that mixes fuel and air and burns it in an internal combustion engine. Wow. Now, remember I told you, generative AI models also have emergent capabilities. That means they can answer questions about things that they have not seen before. And that's something that you need to be careful about when you start using them in an enterprise ecosystem. Just to show what I mean. And I haven't put any guardrails around my model. But all I said is go against this data, but I haven't told it don't go against something else. So now I'm going to tell it, ask, what should I do if my kid is locked inside. Let's see what it says. This was definitely not there in the manual. Call the police and let them know what is going on. Wow. So this is what I was saying. They have emergent capabilities. And you need, if you're planning to use generative AI within your enterprise, these are some guardrails you have to put in place. Like, it's telling me, it knows the context, what am I talking about? And it's telling me call the police and tell them what's going on. That's one thing. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you was something else. Okay, so there is another, so we talked about language models. There is another type of model called as image models. It understands text and converts it into image. And there is a huge use of this in marketing, and maybe people might be able to create some of their own businesses or startups because of this. So I'm using a model again. It's a large language image model, and I'm saying Halloween is going to come, right? So I'm going to say, so it's a costume generator. Just my way of creating a costume. I'm not really a UI person, but I just thought I'll try to create something. So anyway, I'm writing a text. What kind of a costume do I want to generate? And I say, I want a witch with a big broom and an orange wig. Okay, and I can select these styles. I'm going to select I don't know, maybe photographic, and I'll say generate 4 costumes for me. This is probably going to take a little bit of time because I'm running it on my browser. So let me just quickly see. I hope I can show this to you. If not, that's okay. Let's see. Hopefully I can show this. Oh yeah,
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, you see, it drew a witch with an orange. What did I say? Let's see, a witch with a big broom and an orange wig. You can pretty much say anything. I actually said, like, last night my daughter said, like, I want a puppy with a pink tutu. And it actually drew a puppy with a pink tutu. There are different styles. But yeah, I could again go back and let's say I want an origami. Just to have some fun. Let's see how that goes, okay? And I promise that's the last demo I have. Are we within time, Songmi?
Yes, we are, but there are a couple of questions in the chat, so we are queued up.
Awesome. So this is the last one, and it takes a while because this is not production ready. This is just something that I was playing around with on my laptop. So yeah, it's a little bit slow, but once I am able to make this production ready, it's going to be a lot more faster. Oh, nice. So yeah, it does see, so a witch with a big broom and an orange wig. Origami style. I like it. See, you could actually make this, right? Just from this, you could use this as an inspiration and make this. Look at this, look at this. And then this is the last one. And yeah. So you know what? Like, just have fun, try it out on your own. Yeah. That's pretty much what I had today. I'll stop sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Piali. You made us all excited about the prospect. So with that note, there are several questions. So I'm going to start from the top. Sailaja, she asked, where can we learn more about prompt engineering?
I can actually, so you know what? The best way is prompt engineering. And there is a prompt engineering guide. You see the second link? I don't know if you see this prompt engineering guide.ai. Start from here and then read some articles. I have written a lot of articles on medium.com as well as on AWS blogs. And I would say like this prompt engineering guide, this can tell you a lot about prompt engineering.
Could you drop that in the chat, the links?
Yep, I sure can.
Thank you.
Right. So next question is from Lawrence. How do you fine-tune a foundation model to create a spooky costume? Do you feel it?
So that was really fun, isn't it? So Stability AI. I hope I can find the link. So you know what? I did not actually fine tune. So I'm going to Stable Diffusion. This is the foundational model that I used. And out of the box, this foundational model, let me put this link over here. Sorry. Okay. I am able to see my screen because I actually stopped sharing. No, right?
No, we can't see your screen anymore.
I'm so sorry. Let me share my screen because I'm going to Google and I'm actually showing you how to pull up those sites. So let me do that. Okay, I'm going to close this and then y'all can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what I did was, I'll show you what I did again. I just went Stability AI Stable Diffusion, and then the Stable Diffusion, this is the language model. And once you go to this language model, you go to image, and somewhere over here, get started with the API. So you can just see what, and then text to image. And you know what, here somewhere, view documentation. Yeah, so if you go to view documentation, it'll actually tell you what are the filters and everything that you can use. So I basically went into the documentation, and then what I did was, what I did was I basically put those filters, the styles, which Stability AI accepts into my drop down. That's pretty much what I did. I did not fine tune anything that you see. And my recommendation is, you don't, no matter what industry you are in, unless you are in healthcare, life sciences or something like that, 95% of the times you don't need to fine tune. That's the beauty of generative AI versus traditional models. Traditional models you had to train. You cannot use a traditional model without training it with your data. Generative AI models, they've been trained so much on billions of parameters. Most of the times, just by providing a context, like you saw the chatbot that I did, I told it, hey, this is my BMW PDF document manual of 1000 pages. It's got all kinds of images and things like that. Just use this and answer my questions. And most of the times, that's what you will do. It's called as in-context learning. It's not fine-tuning. Fine-tuning is a totally different ballgame. And fine-tuning is like, if you absolutely have to do it, there needs to be a compelling case for you to go into fine-tuning. Else you don't have to.
All right, thanks, Piali. So we have our last question from Carol. If you feed Gen AI proprietary information from your business, is that a safe or might it be integrated?
You can provide generative AI proprietary information from your business. You definitely can. I have seen that. The thing is, you need to run the generative AI model within your controlled environment, and that's possible. That's where For example, I'll talk about AWS because I'm familiar with that. If you have an AWS account, you have something called as Amazon Bedrock. Some other time I'll show you Amazon Bedrock. You can actually go over there, and then what happens is that is a managed platform. It runs within your environment. That is safe. You're not sending the data. Bedrock actually writes in its that we will not use your data to train our models or anything like that. So there are certain considerations, but yes, it's definitely possible, and many enterprises are doing it.
Oh, Pratibha just texted, yes, with the Azure also is possible to do. Great. Thank you. Folks, any other comments or questions? All right. If not, thank you so much, Piali. You made all us very excited about Gen AI, machine learning. So we're going to post this on YouTube, the Woman Who Code video in the YouTube. It may take some time, but it will be posted. So thank you so much for joining. Thanks, Piali, again. And have a great evening. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.